101.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
Russia, if you're listening.
Talk show, random, political, outrageous, philosophical, analytical, passionate, sunsets, roadkill cooking tips, open-minded, swordsman, bent, resolute, chocolate, bushwhacker, belt buckles, investigative, companion, fearless. Call in, piercing the cloud of mainstream entertainment. It's the Cary Harrison Files.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files. Cary Harrison here with you. Support, by the way, for the Cary Harrison Files comes in part from Interscope Records, presenting Who Believes in Angels. That's the new album by Elton John and Brandi Carlile. Further information is available at interscope.com. Also, we're live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us live at kpfk.net. Just go to kpfk.net. Also, please don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get special content that we are forbidden to present on radio, thanks to the FCC, thanks to the defunding of public radio, thanks to the defunding of PBS. So it's private. It's away from prying eyes, if you know what I mean. And that's our newsletter, caryharrison.com, C-A-R-Y, or you can go to kpfk.net. Well, coming up, we're going to open the phone lines. You can feedback, you can rant, you can get it all off your chest. You can ask me anything. In other words, feel heard during these extreme times. Well, here we are again, teetering on the jagged edge of progress like a drunk tightrope walker over a canyon full of terms and conditions. This is a special edition of the Cary Harrison Files, still broadcasting from inside the belly of the algorithmic beast, armed with a microphone, a moral hangover, and just enough bandwidth to piss off the surveillance gods. Today's flavor of dystopia? Just the usual, governments gorging on your metadata like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet of broken privacy, tech billionaires trying to colonize Mars because Earth is too full of poor people, and a current government shoving culture through a blender until it sounds like a TikTok remix of Orwell and Huxley doing karaoke. But fear not, you sentient flesh pudding. You're not alone. We're all stumbling through this simulated reality together. We're clutching our smartphones like digital rosaries, now that we have a new pope, praying to the church of the algorithm for one more dopamine hit before bedtime. And who better to help us navigate this beautifully absurd hellscape than a man who's seen the future firsthand from the bridge of a Federation starship. Joining us today is none other than Tim Russ. He's an actor, director, musician, space navigator, and a man of 1,000 hats, all worn with elegance and exquisite competence. You'll remember him as Tuvok from Star Trek Voyager, the only guy on that ship who didn't fall for every spatial anomaly or temporal paradox like it was a free cruise. But Tim's resume doesn't stop at space. He's composed music. He's directed FBI commercials. Yep, the FBI. And voiced more characters than your average hallucinating screenwriter. Tim is one of the most articulate and conscious advocates for common sense and human decency in the matrix that is now so upside down that a Presbyterian U.S. president has declared himself a Catholic pope. Mr. Russ brings some sobriety back to Twitter, X, and some sanity at a time when we all need more of it. Tim Russ, I want to welcome you to the Cary Harrison Files.
Thank you very much, Cary. A pleasure to be here. Appreciate it. Thank you for the intro.
It was voluped. Tim Russ, you've navigated black holes and bureaucracies. What's more dangerous to you, a Romulan warbird or the current level of propaganda and double speak raining down from DC?
Well, the thing about a Romulan warbird is that, it's very clear, that they're the bad guys and you're the good guys. And now it's no longer clear who are the bad guys and who are the good guys. That's the main difference, Cary, is that, the Romulan warbird's coming at you, it's pretty much laid out and clear what's going to happen and what it's all about. And now it's just, nothing but mass confusion and disinformation, and nobody knows what, half the time knows what's real and what isn't real, and what's AI and what isn't AI. And, so now today you can't even rely on what you're listening to or watching or hearing, because you're not even sure if it's real.
Yeah, there was an era where whatever we saw, you made. I mean, you directed your own Star Trek movie, and you had like live human actors, and you had sets, and you had all of that stuff, because without you creating that, it wouldn't have been done. Now, they can efficiently replicate you and me, and sometimes we might not even know the difference. So it's a special kind of, I don't know, it's a dangerous trickery, especially you as a storyteller, as an Imagineer, using a Disney term, but that's what you are as a creative.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I was just I had to do a presentation at this tech company recently, and I'm not a tech IT person, but they asked me to come and do this information. They wanted to have my perspective from the entertainment business as an actor and a director about how AI is going to be infiltrating. It's already infiltrating the film business as it is, because now even in wide shot scenes with a lot of people, the big panoramas where people are walking around, those are all AIs. You don't have to use extras in background for that. That's just generated by crowd scenes in stadiums, all AI. Your background in some of the larger scenes with a lot of people could be AI. As a matter of fact, they are, and they will be even more so as we move along in terms of background people and actors, even in smaller scenes like coffee shops. You can replace them with AI right now. Nobody's gonna know the difference. Not to mention aging people up or down at random. And so therefore the makeup artists for those larger projects may no longer be needed, because they'll simply just smooth you out or fix any problems or make you look older or younger with just in post and CG. And I'm sure they're doing that now. I think I saw a film not long ago, just recently, where I'm sure the actress that was in that film, that is not her face today. That her face has been smoothed out in post. I know it is, because I've seen photographs, and there's a big difference. So that they can tweak all that now just with a computer, and that's today.
Yeah, the only downside is that you can't make that portable and actually wear it out to the grocery store, because then it would be acceptable.
Yeah, well, that's the issue, right? At least not now. Down the line with in a Black Mirror world, we might be that might change. Who knows? We might be wearing some contacts that make everybody look amazing. So it's just all of that, the way that culture and stuff is influenced by tech. I mean, we're living it now, obviously, with the tech that we do have already. We're doing Zoom sessions on tech. We don't have to do in-person interviews. We use our phone for damn near everything and anything. And that is not going to go away. It's just going to become more and more prolific, more and more integrated into the human condition. I mean, I joke with my daughter, she's 26. I said, it won't be that long before you'll be telling your own kids, that, you used to use a cell phone and have to touch the screen. All of that's going to, is just, there's no stopping this beast. I mean, and the genie's well out of the bottle and down the highway and, into the next state. So that's what's coming. That's where it's going. My only other fear is that, it can be used nefariously by people creating situations, whether through audio recording or through visual, that can condemn somebody to having done something wrong or illegal and or embarrassing or unethical, and they haven't done it. So that you can replicate somebody's voice right now. In fact, the AI is just defeated and won, as it were, the Turing contest. The Turing contest was set up to demonstrate the capabilities of AI compared to a human, and being able to say that, when the contest is out and people are listening to AI or listening to humans, that they would not be able to tell, they would be able to tell the difference between a human and an AI. Well, now, just recently, in a comparison test of a conversation with a human versus a conversation with an AI, 73% of the people chose the AI and thought that was human. So it's now defeated the Turing contest, which was forever standing.
Named after Alan Turing?
Alan Turing, yes.
Yeah.
So it's now defeated that. So, the line between what's real and what's AI, that what's real and what's imaginary, what's real and what's faked or created is growing ever thin. So,
Well, thankfully, Tim Russ, people like you will be able to still tell. Like when you hear an AI voice, the inflection is off. There's something you can tell that's not right. The average person, yeah, they probably won't know the difference. There's a guy named Jeff Fishback who's a forensic. I don't even know what the term is, but we had on the show maybe a year ago an actor who was in one of the Star Trek movies, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And he had AI had faked. There's an app, a fake dating app, where you can pretend you're dating a celebrity, and it'll bring up the celebrity. It'll chat back and forth with you because it learns your personality, so it knows how to flirt with you as the celebrity. And
Right.
then it allegedly sent a naughty picture. Well, this was a girl of 16 in another state, so it became a thing. It turns out it wasn't real, of course, but there is no normal government entity, and I'm not talking about the new government we have, but this is a year ago. There was no infrastructure to figure out, was this real or not, except for this one guy. You, as a director, as an artist, you're going to always have that special eye. So I wonder if there's going to be a new skill set for you to try to determine, is it real or not? Tim Russ, director, musician, playing tonight, he said, a voiceover warlock, former tactical officer of the Starship Voyager as Tuvok, has played Shakespeare, fought space lizards, directed commercials for the FBI, and still found time to release real music you don't need an algorithm to appreciate. It's actually audible.
For somebody, for a child that's growing up, we may be able to say we can tell the difference, or we may be critical of this difference. But for a child that's only, 5 years old right now, 3 years old, somebody being born is not going to be able to tell the difference, or not going to care, but much less care. What they see and what they've been programmed and hardwired to see is going to be what they see, and then what they accept as real. And that technology is exponentially becoming more and more sophisticated. So it's only going to be a matter of time before you won't be able to tell the difference. It's just a matter of computing power. That's all it is. The faster the processor, the more accurate and more detailed these motions and things will be. And eventually they will be able to get the nuances of a human face accurately, and the nuances of a human voice accurately. Right now, the voice is already getting there. To the point where like I said, in the Turing contest, 73% of people couldn't tell the difference. So it's already there. It's just going to get more and more and more like this. And our culture, for some of us, we're going to have to adapt to those changes, and others of us are going to be born and raised and growing into those things.
You just brought up a really interesting point, Tim Russ, about what people will accept. It's just because it's objectionable to you and me, because we like original content. We don't think plagiarism is particularly cool. We do think copyrights are not a bad idea, etc. Everyone else doesn't have to believe that, or they don't have skin in the game the same way. And so they'll accept it if it's ding, checks the box, entertaining. It checks the box for this, checks the box for dopamine delivery. So who cares if it's real or not? But then that puts us even deeper in the hole. And as an artist, you have to balance creativity with the reality that AI is not going away. So what's the sweet spot? Is there one?
Well, it isn't. If you're the creator, if you're manufacturing, if you're the one that's putting out and creating the artwork, what's going to happen is you can choose as an artist or creator to not use AI to that extent, or you can choose to use AI to that extent. What people, in my business, what's most important is what kind of story are you telling? Is the story still interesting? Is the story still good? What it looks like on the screen may come down to the use of more and more AI. That's entirely possible. But you can also stay and remain old school. That is the choice of the people who are producing. Some big producers and film directors are still shooting on film rather than using digital cameras. I think digital cameras are easier to use. They're more economical. You have a lot more capability to protect, also to make sure that your shots are good, because you can download them right there on the set, right on the day that you're shooting, and make sure that you've got the takes you got and there's no mistakes or no issues. And you can make backups of those 2 or 3 times. So to me, that medium is much more practical when it comes to directing or film production. But some people choose to shoot on film still. They want that old school film look, and they like that old school film texture, etc. And the style and the type of work that it comes down to. And that's, so you still have people that will reach back and they will adopt and still use an older technology. And that can go from now till, a number of years in the future, the same thing. You can choose to use real background, or you can choose to use AI background. You can choose to use AI to make somebody look older, or you can use a makeup artist to make them look older. You'll have that choice. I just think that the younger people coming up aren't going to care. They're going to use whatever's expedient and cost effective, and that looks just as good, and nobody knows the difference. That's what they're going to be thinking. That's going to be their mindset of what's happening, especially when it becomes, like I said, more economical to do so. Is it more economical to hire a makeup artist and for the actor to be longer in hours in the makeup chair and take longer to get on set and more, this kind of other thing? Or will it be easier and cheaper just to have the guy in the computer in post just smooth it out? That's what it's going to come down to.
The question, didn't you?
Yeah.
But women are still going to be using makeup for a while. But that's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Until it becomes not the same thing.
Yeah, only live, like you said, only live. Only live.
We're joined by actor Tim Russ. He's also a director, a musician, a voiceover warlock, and yes, former tactical officer of the starship Voyager as Tuvok. He's played Shakespeare. He's fought space lizards. He's directed commercials for the FBI and still found time to release real music that you don't need an algorithm to enjoy. Tim Russ, let's talk for a second about Star Trek Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
Would Tuvok, in today's non-DEI landscape where everyone is prickly and walking on eggshells, would they go for that?
Would they go for a character like Tuvok?
Yeah.
Well, in today's world, in today's environment, that could be a problem, because he would be seen as an outsider, immigrant. He would be seen as an alien, quote unquote. So that may or may not play in today's world. Not right now, at least not in the hands of some of those who call themselves running the country. In a normal world, absolutely, it would be, nobody would blink twice, and especially on the streets of Los Angeles, nobody cares. But in the future, that's a whole different story. Yeah, it's people talk about comparing Star Trek to the current times and wondering, if we'll ever get to the point where we see things the way that they do in the Star Trek universe. Yeah, I mean, over time, evolution, cultural evolution is going to occur. You can't stop evolution as a concept. You can't stop it, and you can't stop cultural evolution as well. Once the seeds of an idea are planted, they are going to grow. And in fact, I've heard recently that it was suggested that, look, societies, rather than evolving over just a sort of slow, sort of gradual plane, upheaval, social upheaval, cultural upheaval, political upheaval may, in fact, help to the society, the culture, to evolve more positively in the long run. Like this upheaval could shift people's perspective. Maybe they'll say maybe they'll say down the line, look, we don't want to do that again. We don't want to go there again. And I'll give you an example. World War II, all of the countries in Europe were killing each other en masse for centuries, as far back as the Middle Ages. And it was up until the middle of the 19th century, the 1900s rather, where World War II occurred. And there was so much upheaval, so much destruction, so much misery and chaos, that now the European countries are all united. They're no longer doing any of that. So that changed the relationship between those countries. Unfortunately, World War I did not do it, but World War II did. And as bad as it was, and here again, the Reich was promised to be 1,000 years. Well, it only lasted 4 or 5. So how long will the turmoil and the upheaval last? Probably not that long. So I think if we come out of this, at least reasonably standing on our feet, that it's a good chance, and I'm hoping this happens. But it's if the situation is similar to what's happened in the past, maybe this will be something that allows our society to grow exponentially rather than on a gradual plane, and also grow in a more positive way.
Uncensored, unexpurgated, and unapologetic. It's the Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
Smells like fish. Tastes like chocolate.
It's the Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files. Cary Harrison here with you. Support, by the way, for the Cary Harrison Files comes in part from Interscope Records, presenting Who Believes in Angels. That's the new album by Elton John and Brandi Carlile. Further information is available at interscope.com. Also, we're live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us live at kpfk.net. Just go to kpfk.net. Also, please don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get special content that we are forbidden to present on radio, thanks to the FCC, thanks to the defunding of public radio, thanks to the defunding of PBS. So it's private. It's away from prying eyes, if you know what I mean. And that's our newsletter, caryharrison.com, C-A-R-Y, or you can go to kpfk.net. Well, coming up, we're going to open the phone lines. You can feedback, you can rant, you can get it all off your chest. You can ask me anything. In other words, feel heard during these extreme times. Tim Russ, director, musician, playing tonight, he said. Voiceover warlock, former tactical officer of the Starship Voyager as Tuvok, has played Shakespeare, fought space lizards, directed commercials for the FBI.
It's a good chance, and I'm hoping this happens. But it's if the situation is similar to what's happened in the past, maybe this will be something that allows our society to grow exponentially rather than on a gradual plane, and also grow in a more positive way.
I agree with you. I think we've already seen crystal knocked with the metaphorical chainsaw, blowing up the government, disenfranchising anyone who is not a white Christian Protestant.
Heterosexual,
exactly. And the rest of you can eat cake, except you don't get any because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, the modern variant of pitchforks and peasants, however we articulate that as Americans. But, I was talking earlier about people who paid into Social Security. A lot of people might not realize it's an annuity. It's like a 401k. You've been paying.
Insurance policy. Yes, insurance policy.
Yeah, but it's your private insurance policy. That's earmarked for you. It's not a gift from the government. Here's some free money. We're going to run the printing press. You paid into it. It's your money. And if they take it, Well, that's naughty.
Yeah. In point of fact, what you're talking about, Social Security, when it was originally conceived, and by the way, for all those who are listening, that was a democratic concept, okay? All of the social programs, almost all of them, have been democratic concepts, just so everybody's aware of which party is either looking out for you and which one isn't. But the Republican Party, starting with Ronald Reagan, it's a black and white piece of footage of him doing a spot on air for television, talking about the evils of Social Security when it was originally proposed, talking about the fact that it would destroy the country's economy. That's on camera. And he was as a spokesperson for the Republican Party because they did not want Social Security. The original concept for the Federalists, who basically, Mitch McConnell and the rest of these guys, originally Hamilton was a Federalist. The Federalists don't believe that the government should be serving the people in any capacity, to speak of. That is not what their position is. It should be conserving the wealthy and the powerful, and that's what we have right now. So that whole concept of Social Security was, when it was born, they fought against it from the very beginning. Since that time, all the way to today, when they want to privatize everything. See, privatize is for the rich, for the powerful, to put more money in their pockets rather than the government. Government is there, paid for by the taxpayers. That's all of us. It is there to fill the gaps when private industry is not. Private industry has no intention or concern. Corporations are not there, unlike Citizens United is not a person, it's not people. It is not there for that. It's there to make profit. The whole doctrine of a corporation or company is to make profit. That it automatically excludes anything else for anybody else. So the government that we all pay taxes into is designed to fill in the gaps so that the price of insulin isn't $4,000 a month, for people who need it to live. And that's where the government steps in. The Obamacare, the health care that put 31 million people were able to get health insurance that didn't have it before is the same thing. They demonized it when it was conceived. They demonized it. Oh, it'll destroy it'll wreck the economy, the blah, 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 blah. That's the same story, because they did not want that money going to the people. And that's all this comes down to, man. We have an oligarchy. We have people who have so much money, more money than God, and they still want more. I don't know what that's all about, but they want all the tax dollars to go to them, not to you. That's all it comes down to, really.
Well, isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
And exactly true. Well, there aren't words to better say what you just said. So let's honor the time, and I know we're running short here. Let's talk a little bit about your directing Star Trek and keeping the Roddenberry dream alive, because I would tell you that 75% of Americans are decent, good people. It's just maybe the bottom third has been hoodwinked. There's been gerrymandering, so much disenfranchising of voters, caging, every possible way to remove votes from African Americans, from Asians, from Latinos, generally speaking, from anyone who might vote with a D. Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, formerly plucking 10,000 metal mailboxes out of soil that was in zip codes that had a lot of Democratic voters. Just a million ways to skin that cat. Jim Crow is back in full force. So we now have a new president that is creating a grift, as he would say, the likes of which we've never seen before, except we did in Germany during the almost 1,000-year Reich of 4 years. And here we are in the reality. You've directed your own Star Trek movies to keep the Roddenberry dream alive. And I think most of us actually want that world.
Yes. Well, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's the percentage of the population that's, for any number of reasons, have gone down the rabbit hole and have joined the cult. And, it's human beings, man. I don't, as the character Tuvok, I would just look at him sideways and just with a slight glance and raise an eyebrow and say, think to myself, what in the world is up with this species? That's our species. We are the biggest problem on this entire planet. We have been and we still are the biggest problem on this entire planet. They talk about colonizing other worlds, man. I don't know if any of that's going to happen anytime soon. As in the Trek universe, getting out and exploring space. I don't know, maybe down the line. But in the meantime, we have to not only preserve this planet so that the resources are available for us to live, but we have to figure out a way to not annihilate ourselves, which we can still do. We can barbecue this planet 3 times over with the nuclear weapons we have present. And quite honestly, until we as a species, as a human race, are able to eliminate every single nuclear weapon from the face of the earth, we will not be safe from really causing catastrophic damage to our species and setting us back, 300 years. So that is still a goal that needs to be achieved. And it will take a lot of time. It will take, again, evolution, cultural evolution. For example, North Korea being as bad as they are and as isolated as they are, the only time that's going to change is if the leadership of North Korea changes and somebody comes into power that says, hey, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. I want to go over here and do that. And it's the reason that the Berlin Wall came down in Russia. The Soviet Union came down because one person, Gorbachev, said, we're going to do things differently. And that's exactly what happened. Changed that whole place. Now, one of his predecessors, obviously, was very pissed off about that and is raising hell worldwide and also with our country. Putin is very unhappy. He was a frontline soldier in the communist Soviet Union, so, he's not happy. Not unlike Adolf Hitler, who was also unhappy about World War I and the capitulation of the Germans. Same thing. So they have this hair up their ass. They have to go out and do this. So I think that as far as my the work and stuff that I have done, I have been honored to be able to carry out the continuing vision of Gene Roddenberry, what he envisioned as a Star Trek future. Whenever I had the opportunity, I directed an episode on the actual series Voyager, and a couple of these independent films that were made. Gods and Men is one of the ones that I think are even more attuned to what Roddenberry was looking for. And to have the opportunity to do that, to explore and examine the human condition, and to look at the morals and the situations, the decisions that have to be made, the circumstances that come up, and how do you handle them? How do you deal with them? How do you relate to others that are not like you? And how do you get out of the situation without resorting to absolute violence?
Tim Russ, director, musician, playing tonight, he said. Voiceover warlock, former tactical officer of the Starship Voyager as Tuvok. Humanity does like to resurrect and reboot itself. You put 100 people on an island, pretty soon someone's cutting hair, someone's cooking the food, someone's trading this for that. There's always a Dick Cheney in the room, a Rumsfeld, there's always one looking for opportunity. But
always,
maybe the life lesson for all of us is to stay awake and hold on to those values and find a way to protect them and share and communicate with others. Right. Like, this is a great time for all of us to be Jonathan Swift again, hang out in coffee shops and say, pardon me, excuse me, and did you know? And create those bonds again, because that's what's going to work.
Yeah, and we have the coffee shops online. We have the social platforms where we can all share. Obviously, I do it all the time. My social media is primarily, getting the word out of what is happening. And also whenever I get an opportunity, the pushback, the fight back, the retaliatory efforts of people trying to just keep the boat from sinking completely. My goal is to get the information out to people who are not aware of the details. I had a friend of mine before the election who was not going to vote for Trump, but he was not aware of the details in Project 2025. He did not know about the details in that plan, which is now playing out. And we had to explain to him what the details were because he was simply not aware of them. So he did not get that information. So if you're not, looking for, you're not checking on, you're not open to, you're not, listening to or reading the information, the factual information about what's happening, about what's going on, and the details of that, It's very important. I'll give you a small example. When they were trying to pass Obamacare, one of the things the right-wing media did, and Sarah Palin was a big mouthpiece about it, they were going around talking about death panels in the Obamacare. Death panels. There's a panel of people who are going to decide whether grandma lives or dies. That's how they were propagandizing that program. And that's what people were hearing, okay? But hardly anyone knows. And I'll bet you none of your listeners right now know exactly what they meant by the death panels. They don't know. I know. I know what it was because I was listening to a source that had the actual information. They weren't death panels. What they were was the doctors wanted compensation, extra compensation for the extra time that they spend with families at the end of life situations for their loved ones. When they're on the ventilator, when they're on the monitors, when they're on the machines, you know, they call upon the doctor far more times than they would normally do it. And the compensation for the time of the doctor, that's what it was. That's what they call death panels. The difference is astronomical. It's nothing to do with death panels. But the truth, all of a sudden, it's clear as to what they're talking about. But all anybody hears is the buzzword death panels. That's the issue we have today. And I don't even know if there's a Star Trek episode or storyline or anything that comes close to dealing with that aspect of our society. This propagandizing serious disinformation. Saying something is one thing when it is not. Damn it, man, the building is on fire. It's flames. You can feel the heat 13 blocks away. But they will tell you it's not. And that's what we're up against.
The late, great radical historian, he would call himself that, Howard Zinn, famously said, you can't be neutral on a moving train.
Yeah.
And exactly to your point, many people are worried about their, should they recoil? Should they write anything on the internet anymore? Do they dare be public? Will it be used against them at some point? It could. But if there's no resistance, we know that the bad guys bulldoze over the opportunity. So resistance is not futile.
No, the resistance is what we need. You have to have the resistance. They had it in World War II, and it was very effective. You have to have, I want to compare it to, it's asymmetric warfare is what it is. We got to figure out a way to adopt asymmetric warfare in this situation because the powers that be have an iron grip and a lot of money behind the mass media. They own, Clear Channel owns 800 radio stations nationwide. Sinclair owns the network, local network broadcasting company through a good chunk of the Midwest, where our 4 states are that decide the entire election, for God's sakes. And then we have, the radio. Everything is taken up by, right-wing media and propaganda. It's all propaganda. So that's what we need asymmetric warfare against, to get people the actual, real, truthful information. And what's crazy is it's 2 taps on your cell phone, man. It's 2 taps on your cell phone. You can get accurate, truthful, factual information counter to what's being put out. So when something comes out, the president says blah, blah, blah. You can go over to somebody's show, podcast, political podcast, and get the actual thing. When he says something about a tariff, I can go listen to somebody talk about, this is what the actual tariff he's talking about is. This is what it actually means. This is why China doesn't have to respond to any tariffs. They don't care, because the fact is China, blah, 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 blah. And so you have the actual information rather than the propaganda that is spread just over and over and over. And that is also the key, over and over and over. Yeah.
Advertising, say the message 6 times, it becomes very personal. You own it, you crave that car, and it works. Tim Russ, how do we follow you? Where do we follow you?
I am on Facebook under my name, and there's no other counterfeit website that I know of. My picture is on there. You can see me. It's on Tim Russ. It's just Facebook, my name. I'm on Instagram. I usually post some political stuff on Instagram. Not a lot of videos and things. It's just pictures and images. I'm on Twitter. Again, just type my name in, or it's under, I think it's TR Vulcan under Twitter, but just type my name. You'll get my picture once again is on there. You'll tell it's me. I post everything on there all the time. I post my music gigs when they're coming up. One is tonight, as a matter of fact, in Los Angeles. But that's where you can find me, Facebook and Twitter under my name. That's where I'll be. I have a website, timrusswebpage.com, and I list my personal appearances, music gigs, things like that, and the projects that I'm working on as well. So those are the three places you can find me. It's not hard to find me.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Tim Russ, former tactical officer of the Starship Voyager as Tuvok, has played Shakespeare, fought space lizards, directed commercials for the FBI, and still found time to release real music you don't need an algorithm to appreciate.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
The Cary Harrison Files.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome back to the only show that dares to broadcast live from the crumbling scaffolds of what's left of civilization, where the truth is too broke to afford a PR team, and the lies come prepackaged with a loyalty card. That would be from the Northeast, known as Washington, D.C. By the way, we're live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary, like Cary Grant, Cary Harrison Substack, or YouTube, so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us live at kpfk.net. Just go to kpfk.net, and don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get the special content that we simply, and I wish we still could on the radio, but thanks to the FCC, not happening so much. So it is private and away from prying eyes, and that's our newsletter. So here's something fun. By the way, we're going to jump to the phones in just a second. We already have, a couple of calls queued up. Haven't even given the numbers. We love that. Something fun for you. After just hearing Tim Russ, Tuvok from Star Trek Voyager, you're now a Star Trek fan. Me too, always have been. I actually met Gene Roddenberry when I was in college. Tim and I have put together an exclusive live online screening for you online, so that it's available to everyone and not on the radio so you can only hear it. It's a movie, a full feature-length movie, special screening of the Tim Russ directed Star Trek Gods and Men. It's going to be a live community screening for all of us, and we can enjoy it together. And I'm going to post the upcoming date on caryharrison.com. I have to say it because people think it's K-E-R-R. No. Like Cary Grant, C-A-R-Y, caryharrison.com. I'm going to put the date up there later this afternoon. I'll also announce it next week as well. So tell everyone. It's going to be for free and for fun. And it's my thanks to you for spending each week with me on live radio or on demand, wherever you get your podcasts. Quick storyline. The year 2306, 13 years after Captain James T. Kirk was swept away by the Nexus after saving the crew of the Enterprise B, the remaining crew of the original USS Enterprise have gone their separate ways. So Captain Uhura and Captain Pavel Chekhov, both are gone to us now, along with Captain John Harriman of Enterprise B, come together for a special dedication in honor of Kirk's Enterprise, and things go wrong. You're Going to love this movie. More on that. Well, you are tuned in to Call In Before the Grid Goes Dark. And this is the last semi-legal frequency not owned by a biotech conglomerate or filtered through a dopamine-optimized algorithm designed by a man-child with messiah delusions. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should I call into this circus when I can just shout into the void of social media like everyone else? But that's the trick, isn't it? Out there, your voice is one of billions, all screaming into the same black hole while it quietly harvests your preferences and sells them to the highest bidder. Ooh, here, analog terrestrial living, baby. Here, your voice might actually matter. Not because we're noble, because we're petty enough. No, I'm kidding. Because we're smart enough to actually listen to each other and learn. So your call gets you heard. Our numbers, your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. I was going to play a little video just while you were dialing in, but since we've got people already queued on, I'm going to ask the beautiful Renee Uwarski just to pause on playing that, and we'll go right to Mark in Signal Hill. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Hello, Mark.
818-985.
Turn down your radio, please. Turn down your radio.
You were dialing in, but you've got people already queued on. I'm going to ask the beautiful Renee, you are.
Hello. Really, it's like, there we go, Mark. Turn on your radio, please.
Signal Hill, you're on the
Okay.
There we go. Awesome. You're on the air, my friend.
Yeah, I was worried about these cheap cyber rockets that they keep launching over Los Angeles and San Diego counties. As often as they blow up, like every week or so, you hear about another one, and they're launching them from Vandenberg west to east, and you watch the contrails going over Southern California during well, now we have year-round fire season, and in the summer it's even worse. But if one of those blows up after takeoff like they generally seem to do, they're going to rain thousands of fireballs over San Luis Obispo, Ventura, Los Angeles, then it goes out over the ocean, and then it goes up over San Diego. So I wonder, I didn't think Vandenberg was built to launch satellites over the Pacific, I believe, but they're launching them from west to east. That's my concern.
Thank you so much. What an excellent call. Thank you, Mark. That opens up a line at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. It's as if society is bifurcated. There's those of us, probably, 80%, who get, geez, we were just getting a grasp of like safety, not letting stuff blow up on launch pads at NASA in Florida because it was killing the wildlife. You can still launch the stuff, but you have to be considerate and concerned about the live mammals. That would include 28 million people who live in the state, debris, all the rest of it. And here we are reset as if it's the 1940s, as if we're doing Fat Man and Little Boy in the middle of Nevada and just putting plutonium in the water, and we have no idea. So it's cognitive dissonance. We know what the right thing to do is. We know that government is our employee. We hire it as the cleaning lady. It handles these kinds of issues. It has committees that look at these things, evaluate it, and make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen, and that we are the unfortunate recipients of bad deals. That part has been taken away from us. So as we were talking to Tuvok, Tim Russ earlier, how do we recapture it? That's like a whole different conversation, but one I definitely want to have. Let's go to G in Glendale. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Brother Cary Harrison, before I mix it up with you a little bit, let me let your audience know, not your regular Pacifica KPFK, but anybody might be new. Mr. Cary Harrison, in about 9 minutes, is going to sign off and say thank you and see you next Friday. That's a lie. He's not going to see you. Not that his show is getting canceled, but he's going to see you this Monday on the IMRU right here on Pacifica KPFK, Lewis Hill, Lee John Lewis, 7 to 8 p.m. That's number one. Number two, brother, I know you mentioned Mr. Tim Russ. I think it was last Friday that you were going to go on the web and continue the conversation, that's beautiful. But try to have these cats on live. That way we can, and you've done it a few times, so we can call in. So when, he says you say he directed videos for the FBI, I can let him know this is Mr. Cary Harrison's show on Lewis Hill and E. John Lewis's pacifist radio network, and we don't mess with the FBI. Also, when he says North Korea, whenever they get a new leader, I can let him know, actually, no, when the good guy Democrat Truman bombed and killed, and I learned that here on Pacifica. I didn't know it. I knew he bombed Hiroshima. Then later on, decades ago, I found out he, created so-called Israel. But later on right here on Pacifica, I learned that he wiped out, I think, half of the North Korean population. So I can let Mr. Russ know that, no, actually it's the West, Greek, Rome, England, France, so-called U.S., so-called Israel that bombs people. So it's not about the new Korean leader or anybody else. And number 3, Gene Roddenberry is actually not a right-wing, George Washington, John Wayne, Cristobal Colon, but a liberal racist. I understand all the, mixed people and stuff. You can even ask George Takei, one of my enemies. But George Takei, I should have told him when I saw him downtown LA in that bookstore hawking his book in the 90s. But we understand so-called Americans don't believe in freedom of speech. Otherwise, he would have probably blown up. But George Takei even said that Gene Roddenberry was going to pull that nonsense about, that FDR nonsense about, Japanese were not loyal. Not that they should have been. They should have been loyal to Japan. But he was going to, and George Takei had to push back on that. I got a million more, but I'll let other people get in. Hopefully I'll catch you this Monday, brother Cary Harrison. Promote your show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, G. I really would love to hire you to teach a communication course, how to talk for 3 minutes without taking a breath. It is a masterful talent, and you pack so much content in. It's an ebook, and I always love hearing from you. All right, that opens up a line. We do have a full board at 818. Your Harrison hotline's 985-KPFK. Let's go next to Joshua in Anaheim. You're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Hey, Cary, how's it going? I just wanted, at a moment where everything seems kind of insane, I want, people to remember something that sort of grounds me when I think about it. Let's go back to the United Healthcare CEO debacle. When that man was dispatched of, there were a few people who were saying that was wrong, like whatever, violence is never cool, and that's fair. I get that. But remember that everybody agreed in that moment that the sort of violence that is contributed by the healthcare industry against the people is a violence that is deserving of like consequences. And everyone agreed, right, left, center, anybody you talk to, everybody was like, I get this. I totally understand this. And so I just want your listeners to remember that the people are out there. They might not have the terms available to them to like explain their politics, and they might disagree with you even when they really do agree with you. But deep down, intuitively, everybody understands that what is happening right now in this country is not cool. And we're all on the same page, even if we don't know it.
I appreciate it. What an excellent summary of the reality in which we live. I do thank you so much for your call, Joshua in Anaheim. Very much appreciate it. Let's go next to Stan in East LA. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Hello, Stan.
Yeah, Cary, thanks a lot for all you do. And what I want to say is on the Hartman show, I heard of something called PASOIR.com, and I've talked to you or
yes,
to others
you have.
about it.
Yes, you have. And I
heard of it. But here's the deal. In looking at it, it's like a daily newspaper. People say I read it, I looked at it, all that. No, it's almost every day they're changing things. But the point I want to make here is for you and Tim and everybody else, it's the only voice that is saying it has the legal, constitutional program, the know-how to rid ourselves of Trump. They say in 6 weeks, if we pay attention to what's legal.
And we've done this call multiple weeks. I'm just going to put you on hold, my friend, because this is a replay of a call. And I love that you do call in, but we hear this every single week. We still don't have any evidence of what their legal standing is somehow to remove a president other than what the Constitution says, which is impeachment and a trial by the Senate. That's the only constitutional cure. If you can send me email, and I've asked you this before, how exactly they legally can make this claim and how they have standing, they and whoever has some class standing with them. I would love to know, because that's a show right there. We have very compressed time. We can squeeze in Elaine in Los Angeles. Elaine, you're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Greetings and thank you.
Glad to have you.
I just wanted to point out that in terms of English or propaganda, it seems to me that to say whites are being eaten in South Africa is similar to saying the Haitians are eating cats and dogs.
Yeah.
I don't know who's putting together the propaganda that they're putting out, but I assume they're doing a fantastic job because it seems to be working.
Yeah, it's coming directly from the guy that runs Doge, who is from South Africa, who is one of those white people. These are his buddies, his comrades, his allies. And so while you're purging immigrants, while you're looking to remove birthright citizenship and everything else, you're importing brand new, fresh, squeaky clean, new white racist immigrants. So that's all you need to know. Unfortunately, you're not hearing David Muir frame it that way. So we can't understand. This is why we get to have these conversations. This is why you called in to put light on that. And I thank you so much for your call, Elaine. I think we have time. Do we have time for one more? I think we do. We have a quickie. We have 2 minutes. I can't see the names, but there it is. Sounds like somebody's there. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Hello. Am I on air?
You are.
Hello?
Yes, Harold, your radio is on in the background. You got 1 minute.
Oh, anyway, hey, Ray Bradbury is a good man. He helped my inheritance. He saved the water of L.A. He donated and made that beautiful park. And my hat's off to your guest. My hat's off to Ray Bradbury. And I hope
you mean Gene Roddenberry or Ray Bradbury, who wrote Fahrenheit 451?
Oh, man, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess we'll never know. But I suppose we could Google it and find out which one did what. Both were seminal in the creation of the civilization that you and I both crave. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. Don't forget to get our newsletter at Cary, like Cary Grant, C-A-R-Y, CaryHarrison.com. And there I'm going to have the date for the upcoming private screening just for you of Star Trek Gods and Men. Full feature-length film just for you as my thank you. And thank you from Tim Russ, who directed it with some of the original cast. Wow. Okay. I look forward to seeing you next Friday. And of course, this Monday at 7 p.m. here on KPFK for Unzipped. Okay. Have a great week.
This pussy grabs back.
The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.